Picture the grid at Daytona, engines idling, and not a single car has turned a competitive lap all weekend. No practice, no shakedown, nothing. Yet underneath the bodywork, this is not the car anyone raced last year. The spoiler is smaller, the horsepower is lower. Every team on that grid is about to find out, in real time, on live television, whether the biggest rule change of the season actually works. NASCAR just gave every other track on the schedule more practice time. Just not this one. Why would the sport hand teams more time everywhere except the one race where the car itself has completely changed? Is this a genuine safety call? Or is NASCAR deliberately throwing its drivers into the unknown for the sake of drama? On July 22nd, NASCAR announced a major shift to its practice format. Beginning at New Hampshire Motor Speedway on August 23rd, Cup Series practice groups are eliminated. In their place, teams get one combined 50-minute session, along with an extra set of Goodyear tires. This follows years of frustration from fans and drivers, dating back to pandemic-era cuts that forced garages to operate with drastically reduced track time as a cost-saving measure. Kyle Larson has voiced support for having enough time in practice to make a real adjustment and learn something before qualifying. Goodyear has pointed to the increased tire allocation as evidence this is a genuine structural shift, not a token gesture. On the surface, this looked like NASCAR listening to its garage. That is exactly where the story stops being simple. If you were a crew chief, what is the first thing you would want to test in that extra 50 minutes? This is exactly the kind of story we break down before anyone else here at NASCAR Trackline TV, and we are closing in on 1,500 subscribers. If you want to stay ahead of these storylines, hit that subscribe button right now. Daytona and Talladega are excluded from the new practice format. Despite getting more practice everywhere else on the schedule, Super Speedways get none, exactly as before. This is not a small footnote sitting quietly inside the announcement. It directly contradicts the spirit of the change. The contradiction becomes far more serious once the car itself is factored in. On August 29th, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 will run under a new aerodynamic package. The rear spoiler has been cut from 7 inches to 4. Horsepower has been reduced from 510 to 465. NASCAR itself has said it expects single-car speeds to rise by roughly 3 miles per hour. This is not a cosmetic tweak. It alters drag, aero balance, and how a driver has to attack traffic in a pack. The cars will be different. The stakes will be the same. But there will be 0 laps to learn the difference before the green flag drops. Would you trust a completely new race car package with no practice? Or does that sound like a recipe for disaster? NASCAR did not simply accept this risk quietly. A top official explained the reasoning on camera. John Probst, NASCAR's event management president, framed the decision as threading the needle between competition and entertainment, suggesting that watching teams work through the unknown in real time is part of what draws fans in. This is not spin from a fan account. This is the man in charge of the schedule saying, on record, that uncertainty is a feature and not a flaw. That reasoning did not sit well across the fan base. One commenter, going by the handle Zellenalpac, put it bluntly, "I look forward to seeing how the drivers get accustomed to this change during practice that weekend." Oh wait, is turning driver uncertainty into a form of entertainment-smart programming, or is it playing with fire at 200 miles an hour? This tension is not new. It is a scar that has been reopening since 2020, when the pandemic forced NASCAR to strip practice down as a cost-cutting measure. That limited practice philosophy never fully went away, even after restrictions lifted. Daytona is fundamentally different from every other track using the new 50-minute format. At a standard circuit, a driver can isolate variables like braking zones and tire wear one car at a time. At a super speedway, the car's behavior changes depending on whether a driver is leading, drafting, or pulling out of line with more than 30 other cars nearby. No solo practice lap and no simulator can fully replicate that, and this time, drivers get neither the shakedown nor the pack experience before it matters. Do you think a driver can truly learn a brand new aero package by feel alone, mid-race, at 200 miles per hour, or is that asking the impossible? Super speedway practice has always carried a different kind of risk, not just crashing, but crashing a car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for zero competitive gain. There is a clear tension between what fans want, prepared drivers, and what team owners want, protected equipment. One recurring theory across the community, voiced plainly by a commenter using the name Fury0SD, argued it comes down to simple math. Running 100 hours on the sim is cheaper than a single hour of real-world superspeedway practice. A sharper version came from a commenter going by Upstate24Fan, who suggested it is not all owners equally, but specifically the teams with the biggest simulator programs who benefit most from keeping smaller organizations off the track. This remains fan speculation, not confirmed NASCAR strategy, but it is the exact kind of theory now spreading fast. If bigger teams really do have a simulation edge, does skipping practice help level the field, or does it just widen the gap even further? With no practice, the first real-world test of this package happens live, in front of millions, with the entire field on track simultaneously. Track temperature, wind, tire behavior, and how drafting changes depending on how many cars are bunched together are variables no simulator can fully recreate. A commenter, Dry Membership 3867, stated flatly that no practice will be a disaster if we are doing a new aero package. Another commenter, FloridaMan92, raised the exact fear NASCAR would want to avoid, warning about teams cutting laps at 215 miles per hour with a smaller spoiler and no data to confirm whether that is safe. If the package works as intended, this storyline vanishes overnight, and NASCAR looks like it took a smart risk. If it does not, the first laps of the race become the test session nobody was supposed to need. Do you think NASCAR is confident this package will simply work, or are they quietly hoping the first big mistake does not happen on the biggest stage of the year? This story is bigger than one race weekend. It is a preview of a larger power struggle inside the sport over who controls how much a NASCAR driver is allowed to learn before risking their life at 200 miles per hour. Owners are protecting cars. Teams are protecting budgets. NASCAR is protecting a made-for-television moment. Drivers are left in the middle, needing to trust a car they have never turned a real lap in. A commenter under the name Not the Golden Knights called it out sharply, arguing it makes no sense for the sport's top division to skip real-world practice, and dismissing the cost-saving justification directly. A more measured, insider-adjacent theory came from 6.2 Liter, who pointed out that this is not purely NASCAR's call in isolation, but NASCAR responding to what team owners are pushing for, meaning the drivers now facing the unknown may be dealing with a decision their own team bosses helped shape. Who do you think actually holds the power here? NASCAR, the owners, or the drivers who have to live with the consequences on Sunday? The facts are simple when stated in sequence. NASCAR changed the Daytona package. NASCAR expects faster speeds. NASCAR wants better passing. NASCAR expanded practice everywhere else on the schedule. And Daytona, despite carrying the single biggest technical change of the season, still gets 0 laps to prepare. There is no confirmed evidence that NASCAR deliberately created danger, and no confirmed evidence of outside pressure dictating the decision. That does not erase the tension. The uncertainty itself is the tension, regardless of intent. When the field rolls onto the banking at Daytona, will this prove NASCAR knew exactly what it was doing, or will the first few laps expose something no simulator, no meeting room, and no amount of preparation could have predicted? Drop your prediction below. Smooth debut for the new package, or chaos in the first stage? Let us know in the comments, and share this video with a fellow NASCAR fan who needs to see this. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next. We are almost at 1,500 subscribers here at NASCAR Trackline TV, so hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your prediction, and share this with someone who follows the sport as closely as you do.